Friday, and you know what that means. The Hudson Media Group proudly brings to you the latest edition of Talking Politics. And certainly, I am the generational talent in Garden State Media and your leader for trustworthy opinion journalism. That's right, folks. It is me, Fernando Uribe. Hope you're all having a wonderful close to the month of February. Hopefully, you've all been safe in these blizzard-like conditions. And I tell you right now, I'm sure we'll be complaining during the summer, but warmer days cannot get here soon enough for all of us. But in any event, there's always a lot to discuss. So let's get started. Here's what I'm thinking about right now. Now, folks, earlier this week, we were able to watch the latest edition of the State of the Union address by the 47th president. Now, it's the first official one since his second term began. If you all recall, last year in February of 2025, it wasn't exactly a State of the Union address since he had just taken office the month before. But in any event, folks, I got to tell you, and again, you might disagree with me, but let me lay out the facts for you. The State of our Union is indeed strong, and the president laid out a very compelling and convincing argument in what was almost a 2-hour State of the Union address. Now, folks, one of the things that kind of bothers me about partisan politics when it comes to the State of the Union is, let's be honest, both parties are guilty of it. When it comes to whatever party occupies the White House, the opposing party will tend to be complaining or disruptive or just outright, skeptical of the party occupying not just the executive branch, but also the legislative branch. And presently, right now, Republicans control both chambers of Congress. And of course, a Republican sits in the White House. Now, that might change later this November, but we'll see. But I can tell you that all the hysteria and all the polling about how Republicans are doomed during the midterms, I think is a bit exaggerated. And I'll tell you why. Now, again, let's be honest about something we saw right from the get-go. And we saw, obviously, some theatrics from some clowns within the Democrat Party. Obviously, a representative from the state of Texas, who we all know is as big a race baiter as anything that we've ever seen in American politics. I won't even mention his name. I think we all know who I'm talking about. But throughout the evening, folks, there were a lot of feel-good moments, and moments that I would think would be unifying, that would be bipartisan. I mean, the idea that the U.S. men's hockey team that won the gold medal for the first time at the Winter Olympics since 1980, since that Miracle on Ice team in 1980, led by Captain Mike Eruzione and the amazing men from the 1980 U.S. men's hockey team. Well, you would think that in 2026, 46 years later, when this group of young men, now again, all comprised mostly of NHL players, which is fine. That's what they wanted during the last collective bargaining agreement, was to participate in the Winter Olympics. To no one's surprise, it was a theatrical and dramatic final against our neighbors to the north in Canada. And again, by the way, shout out to the young ladies from the women's national hockey team, as they also won gold against the Canadians. But folks, I got to tell you, beating the men's Canadian team, it's a special kind of warmth for me. And as a guy who loves hockey, and again, if you follow me on social media, you know I'm one of the few Hispanics that loves to go watch hockey. I'm a diehard New Jersey Devil fan. And wouldn't you know it, that the guy to score the game-winning goal for Team USA is indeed a New Jersey Devil. So congrats to Jack Hughes, his brother Quinn, and the rest of the young men who won gold in Italy during the Winter Olympics. And you would think when the President of the United States was able to march them out in the chambers of Congress, you would think everybody would have stood. No, Democrats, many of them, were acting like children. But what else is new? And you would think that, if anything else, this wasn't political. This was saluting young men representing our country at the Winter Olympics. Folks, it was quite embarrassing. But again, let's just lay it out all on the line here. Let me just give you a list of what Democrats who sat there, the Democrats who attended, by the way, because there were some who were outside acting like fools, like Senator Chris Murphy and others, with a little rally outside the White House where, let's be honest, nobody really attended. Right? But here's what many Democrats in Congress refused to stand up for during the State of the Union. Number one, and I think it was one of the most historic moments of the night, and whether you want to call it clickbait or theatrics, what do you want to call it, folks, it doesn't matter. The President of the United States asked a simple question. You just stand up if you believe in representing Americans before illegals. Every Republican stood up and cheered openly and loudly. Not one Democrat stood up. Now, you expect that from some of like the horrible Democratic socialists and the woke fools that sit in the House of Representatives and the United States Senate. like Bernie Sanders from Vermont, Ilhan Omar from Minnesota, certainly and others. Andy Kim here in New Jersey. Even Sparks himself, Cory Booker, wasn't in attendance. That's surprising. I mean, he always likes to be the drama queen and, put the worst faces on and just act like a child, like he usually does. But you would think that putting Americans over illegals will be something we should all celebrate. No, not for Democrats in Congress, no. For example, voter ID laws. The president was emphatic about passing the SAVE Act. And guess what? It makes a lot of sense. It polls well among every demographic. But not for Democrats. Because let's be honest, folks, for a lot of Democrats in Congress, they're dependent on illegals for their voter base. And because they're allowed to be counted into the census, that has a lot to do with how House seats are appropriated and also within the Electoral College. If we started demanding citizenship and proof of citizenship upon the right to vote, well, folks, Democrats would be in a panic because many of the illegals that comprise their voter base would be nullified. But again, to ask these children to salute and support voter ID laws and proof of citizenship to vote, that isn't a lot to ask for, but it is for a lot of Democrats sitting in the halls of Congress. As a matter of fact, the homicide rate nationally has gone down significantly, and it's at its lowest in almost a century. Gee, I wonder if maybe if ICE going into multiple cities in this country and get rid of dangerous criminal illegals who are committing dangerous felonies like homicides and assaults. You think that has anything to do with it? Nah, of course not. It's just a coincidence. Folks, we know better. Of course, protecting parental rights and standing up for parents when it comes to all this identity nonsense and all the woke bullshit and all this coddling of mentally ill people. Because, folks, that's what trans people are. They're mentally ill. There's no way to discuss it any better. Okay? Mental illness is real in this country, folks. And we see it with trans people. And isn't it interesting how the left, and whether it's the establishment media or academia or liberal Hollywood wants to talk about, oh my God, the amount of Americans that ICE kills. Well, guess what, folks? You know who's killed more Americans in 2026 than ICE agents? Trans people. Okay? Just Google it. After the recent shooting. And in recent years. How many Americans have died at the hands of trans people? Trans shooters. Anybody want to take a guess at that? Folks, we all know the answer. So stand up for parents and stand up against all this trans bullshit. Again, another check mark for me when it comes to the president during the State of the Union. Addressing fraud. Folks, we see that in Minnesota. We've seen billions of dollars wasted within the Somali community in the state of Minnesota. And no, it's not racist to pick on Somalians and everything else. Folks, when you import the third world here, okay? When you import people from shithole countries, guess what, folks? They're going to come here. They might ruin some of our way of life. And they're doing that in Minnesota. That's not racist, folks. That happens all throughout the world. Okay? There are plenty of shithole countries in Latin America, in Europe, Africa, you name it, Asia. Okay? It's not racist. We have to call it what it is. But in Minnesota specifically, folks, we're seeing fraud at an all-time negligent high. And good for the president appointing the vice president to actually want to look into this, into some sort of inquiry. I can assure you, folks, the Vice President Vance will take his job seriously in terms of addressing fraud a hell of a lot more than Vice President Harris did when she was made the border czar. Also, honoring angel families. Folks, illegals have caused irreparable harm to thousands of families in this country. Whether it was the family of Laken Riley that was honored at the White House just the day before the State of the Union, a young girl who was victimized by an illegal who shouldn't have never had a driver's license to begin with. And her way of life will never be the same, but she's recuperating. And you saw the president honoring her and her dad and fighting for her, fighting for angel families, for Americans who have been victimized by illegals. Not one Democrat stood for that young lady or the mother of the Ukrainian immigrant that was brutally murdered by a criminal in North Carolina with awful bail reform laws that allow criminals like that to continue roaming the streets. You think Democrats could have stood up for her? Of course not. You think Democrats could have stood up for the helicopter pilot who was injured during the raid to sequester the illegitimate president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro? No, of course not. I bet you if the men's hockey team came out in dresses and announced that they were changing their gender, I'm sure they'd all stand up and do cartwheels, as a matter of fact. Also, the cost of gas has gone down. Now, you wouldn't know it here in New Jersey, folks, because unfortunately, the gas tax is the fourth highest in the country, just behind California, New York, and Pennsylvania. And despite the fact that the gas tax, now again, that's a statewide issue here in New Jersey, which was enacted under Republican Governor Chris Christie, in all fairness, the gas tax continues to go up here. And here in New Jersey, folks, as much as gas has gone down, we're still looking at like $2.40 to $2.50 here in New Jersey. If it wasn't for the gas tax, we'd be under $2. And what's interesting is, again, the gas tax and the revenue generated from the gas tax is supposed to go into the Transportation Trust Fund here in New Jersey, which is supposed to fix our roads. Folks, you want to take a guess as to, for example, AAA that studies roads all throughout this country? You want to know where AAA ranks New Jersey roads nationally? Yeah, they're in the bottom third. That's right, folks. The bottom 1/3 in the country. So what exactly is the gas tax doing? But thankfully, the president decided to continue drilling domestically and lifting the moratorium that we had under Joe Biden. And we stopped this fixation on green energy, which we all know has been bullshit. For example, also during the most recent Big Beautiful Bill, we saw no taxes on tips, overtime, and Social Security benefits. You think Democrats would stand up for that, right? Because a lot of their voter base are dependent because they work in the service industry, because a lot of them work working class jobs and depend on overtime. A lot of them collect Social Security benefits. You think Democrats in Congress would have stood up for that? Of course not, because they're children. And of course, last but not least, you would think they would have stood up for the most secure border in American history. In the last 4 years under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, the border was wide open. Tens of millions of illegals fled across our country, many dangerous ones, and we've seen the harm of it. We've seen the ill effects of it. And now the president of the United States has secured the border. These are all things that Democrats in Congress should be standing for. These are things that the woke mob and all the social justice clowns and the nose ring militia and all the Karens and cat ladies and all the feminists should be up in arms, cheering and screaming at the top of their lungs saying, "Thank you, Mr. President, for this great record in just one calendar year." And I get it. Some Republicans are vulnerable when it comes to House seats. And right now they hold a very slim majority. And they hold some of a slim majority also in the Senate. But folks, there's a positive economic message here. There's a positive quality of life message here. There's a positive foreign policy message here. And putting Iran on notice and other terrorist countries throughout the world. But you would think Democrats in Congress would be standing up applauding. Listen, folks, you may not have to like the president, may not like his delivery. And I get it. Sometimes it bothers me. Yes, it can come across as a little arrogant. Yes, it can come across as a little pompous. But folks, the results are there. Now, if you want to nitpick and split hairs, that's your business. But it tells me everything I need to know about you and your value system. The President of the United States outlined why the state of our union is indeed strong. And sure, if I were Republican operatives and consultants, all I would do is play back videos of Democrats sitting down when honoring angel families, when honoring people that were victimized by illegals, honoring the men's hockey team. These are all things that should be bipartisan, folks. But no, many on the left that occupy the halls of Congress within the Democrat Party would rather sulk and act like children than give the president his flowers and give him a W, which he's earned. But folks, tragically, and some of them even represent us here in New Jersey, whether it's Andy Kim in the U.S. Senate, whether it's Cory Booker in the U.S. Senate, whether it's representatives like Nellie Poe, Frank Pallone, LaMonga MacGyver. I mean, I'm not sure how she actually fit in one of those seats because they're pretty narrow seats there in the halls of Congress. Okay. But these are the people representing us here in New Jersey and around the country. Progressives and the left have told you, quite frankly, they don't care about you. They'd rather grandstand. They'd rather participate in theatrics and semantics than actually stand up for things that benefit Americans. Now, I just gave you a whole list here. And folks, that's not partisan. That's not me offering an opinion. Folks, those are facts. Everything I just gave you right now in this list are facts. And I got to tell you, folks, Ben Shapiro, one of my favorite conservative podcasters, once said, facts don't care about your feelings. And quite frankly, neither do I. I care about results. I care about what's getting done. Now, could things be better? Of course. By the way, inflation also has gone down and interest rates have gone down. So for all my realtor and mortgage friends, you should be ecstatic because interest rates are at its lowest in quite some time. Yeah, people weren't buying homes during the Biden administration. They couldn't afford it. Interest rates were high. Inflation was still high. Grocery bills have gone down, folks. Now, if you can't live within your means and you can't live within your budget, that's not my problem. Okay? Learn to live with it. Learn to live within your means. Have a budget. I can. Why can't you? But folks, again, we get back to a serious divide when it comes to our politics, our ideologies, our opinions, and our values. The President of the United States outlined why the State of our Union is indeed strong. Many Democrats just sat there, sulking, wearing inappropriate pins, being vulgar on national television. But folks, that's who the American left have shown you to be. And pay attention. Because one thing is their words. Another thing are their actions. And they're showing you how they're acting. Quite frankly, folks, it's quite embarrassing. And if you haven't, and if you are a Democrat, and if you do write to your elected officials, whether here in New Jersey or nationally, write to them and tell them to do a better job representing your party on the national stage. Because right now, they're doing a shit job of it. And that's what I'm thinking about right now. And now for some local stories for your consideration. A special thank you to Aaron Morrill, the editor-in-chief of the Jersey City Times, for his reporting on this story, and specifically also nice job by Ron Lear, one of the columnists there, for uncovering this quite unfortunate circumstances transpiring right now at New Jersey University, as they'll be laying off at least 151 employees, which include 33 professors. Now, as part of its pending merger with the Union County-based King University, NJCU will shed at least 151 of its current employees this summer. Now, that figure was reported this month at a membership meeting of Local 1839, the NJCU chapter of the American Federation of Teachers, according to a source familiar with the layoffs. Now, the source said 33 faculty members, including 24 tenured and 9 non-tenured professors, received pink slips. Now, the list of axed employees also includes 2 librarians, 6 non-tenured track teachers, and 110 professional staff members. Now, laid-off employees will continue working through June 30th of 2026, according to the notification letters that they received. Representatives for NJCU and King declined to comment on the personnel changes. Quote, in some cases, entire staff offices are being wiped out, such as registration, transfers, admissions, and academic advisors. Those functions will likely be performed by King employees after the merger is complete. In some cases, yes. Now, according to the layoff notification letters the employees received, they will be entitled to, quote, applicable unused accrued sick time unless retiring. Those enrolled in NJCU in the New Jersey's state health benefits program will have the option to continue coverage under COBRA, a federal law allowing ex-employees to temporarily retain their employer-sponsored health coverage if they pay the full premium. Now, dismissed employees can apply to the State Department of Labor and Workforce Development for unemployment benefits after June 30th, and NJCU, quote, will not contest those applications. The NJCU-King merger transition team has not publicly projected how much money the dismissals will save the merged institution. Meanwhile, some NJCU faculty members and professional staff have applied to retire early under a voluntary separation program negotiated between Local 1839 and the university. Now, the deadline to apply for the program was Wednesday, last week. Around 60 employees applied, the source told the Jersey City Times. Now, both retrenched and non-retrenched multi-year contracted employees could apply for the program with, quote, retrenched employees given priority consideration based on seniority. according to a document outlining the details of the program. Now, professional staff members had to make $120,000 or less to be eligible to apply, according to the document. Professional staff whose applications are accepted will receive 2 weeks of base salary for every year they worked for NJCU, up to a maximum benefit of 26 weeks' pay. Now, tenured faculty members whose applications for the voluntary separation program are accepted will receive only 1 week of base salary for each year that they worked, up to 26 weeks pay according to the document. However, there was no salary cap for faculty applicants. Participants in the voluntary separation program will, quote, be eligible for future employment at King University and at King's sole discretion. NJCU will pay a maximum of $1.5 million for professional staff and $1.5 million total for tenured faculty throughout the program, according to the document. Well, folks, I have to tell you, I mean, this is certainly one of the unfortunate realities of working in higher education. Less and less people are enrolling. Certainly, the bureaucracy at many public universities has grown to like just unsustainable proportions. I can look no further than my own alma mater, Rutgers University. Well, folks, let's be honest. I mean, they receive hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars. And I'm sure if anyone could use some sort of scalpel to shave out the fat, it could be Rutgers University. I'm at least intellectually honest when I say that. Okay, we don't need 57 deans, at the state university. But again, folks, when you grow bureaucracy and when you get fatter than Chris Christie and some of the old Victoria's Secret models, well, at some point, the chickens come home to roost economically and fiscally. Now, with this merger between King University and New Jersey City University, we'll find out what happens to some of these employees. And certainly my heart goes out to them, especially the tenured and non-tenured faculty members. Having worked in academia for some years, folks, I know the struggles about higher education. I know about the struggles about budgeting and funding and what departments are funded and what departments receive grants and what department receive the right amount of money from Trenton. So we'll see what happens in the next few weeks leading up to the June 30th deadline. Because as we all know, the fiscal year starts July 1st. And we'll see what happens between King University and then JCU. Certainly they're two great institutions of learning here in New Jersey. And we'll see once they merge how it affects business, academic standards, and of course, all the personnel working at both universities. Staying in Jersey City, and a special thank you to a fellow Rutgers alumnus, a member of the Pinnacle here in Hudson County, and of course, the editor of the Hudson County View, John Hines, for his reporting on this story. And to no one's surprise, folks, retards supporting retards. Yep, that seems to be the norm among Democratic socialists. Now, Councilman Joel Brooks and Jake Efros are backing David Sabry Gurgis for the Hudson County Commissioner candidacy in the 4th District, seeking to get another member of the Democratic Socialists of America elected to office. According to Joel Brooks, I've known David for a few years. He's a friend, he's an advisor, and he does not pull punches. And if you know him, he's in your corner. You know you have no stronger advocate than David. On the board of the commissioners, David is going to fight for working class people. And he's going to watch every dollar because those are your tax dollars and they should be spent wisely. Sure. All right, Joel. Gurgis is looking to unseat Commissioner Uribe Aponte-Lipsky and already has the backing of one of her former opponents, Ward Councilwoman Elena Little. He also has the formal support of the North New Jersey DSAs, as reported first by the Hudson County View. When David says that we're going to fight for free tuition for our public community college here in Hudson County, it's not just a pipe dream. That is real stuff for real students here in our community, according to Efros, who represents Ward D, of course, saying this about Gurgis. It is an example of how David is going to set the expectation high for working class people in Jersey City and Hudson County. Because for so long, Hudson County has been the place where our leaders tell us what we don't deserve, what we can get, and what we shouldn't ask for. David's going to change that, and it's why I'm proud to endorse him. Now, the 4th District is a Heights-based district that includes a small portion of downtown, which gives additional weight to the support of Efros and Little. Also of note, Aponte-Lipsky backed Efros for the Ward D Council seat ahead of the December 2nd runoff. Well, I'll tell you, folks, talk about cutting your nose to spite your face. Well, yeah, that endorsement came back to bite you in the ass, didn't it? Now, of course, Hudson County's 4th District also includes Journal Square, and the Democrat primaries for all 9 commissioner seats is set for June 2nd. Well, folks, again, I think you know how I feel about Jake Efros and Joel Brooks. I think two, grown men who don't understand biology or economics. But yeah, listen, again, that's all you need that's pretty much a prerequisite to be a member of the Democratic Socialists of America, whether you're here in Hudson County or New Jersey or across the country. And it'll be interesting what happens during this upcoming election cycle, folks. Yes, listen, progressives and the woke mob have the wind to their back. And they have some momentum, sure. But like anything else, folks, they're going to learn the hard way when it comes to how to spend your tax dollars. It's not about free public tuition or free this or free that. At some point, folks, someone has to pay for it. And it's us, people with jobs. Can't say the same for David Gerges because I doubt he has a job. And the first job that Joel Brooks has had is, along with Jake Efros, is being council members in Jersey City. So it's really nice for people that have never had any real world work experience to be telling you how tax dollars should be spent. We'll find out what happens, folks, during the upcoming primary, but I'm sure it'll be an interesting race to watch nonetheless. Lastly, folks, I know we're all looking forward to warmer days ahead of us. It's been a brutal winter with single-digit temperatures for weeks at a time and inches upon inches of snow. And again, folks, we may not even see our streets being completely free of snow until maybe sometime in March or April. Hopefully warmer temperatures are coming. It'll melt it all away. But during the warmer days coming up this spring, folks, I want you to mark it down on your calendars because on Friday night, April the 17th, coming to you from the world-famous Son Cubano located along the waterfront in West Newark, New Jersey at 40-4 Riverwalk Place will be the 2026 edition of Memories Matter to benefit Alzheimer's New Jersey. Now, I've been proud to partner with Alzheimer's New Jersey for some years now. As you can see on the flyer provided, folks, trust me, it is definitely an event you don't want to miss. We'll have great networking opportunities. Of course, DJ Ziggy Roman will provide outstanding music all night long. And of course, folks, we'll have great raffles from local businesses all throughout Hudson and Bergen counties. So all proceeds from the event benefit Alzheimer's New Jersey. And folks, it's our opportunity to mingle, network, and just party for an exceptional cause, and a very important one at that. As Alzheimer's and dementia continues to ravage our communities, it doesn't matter, folks. It doesn't discriminate. White, black, rich, poor, men, women, it doesn't matter. Alzheimer's and dementia are indeed ravaging our communities here, specifically in Hudson County. Let's make a difference and let's send a message by helping Alzheimer's New Jersey and all the great work that they do with helping families all throughout the Garden State. And they do that every single year. And they don't ask for much. Yeah, sure, they get some grants out of Trenton and your generous donations. But folks, they make every dollar count by helping families that are ravaged with Alzheimer's and dementia. And if you know anyone that's affected by Alzheimer's or dementia, again, you can scan the QR code on the flyer there provided right near me. You can donate online to Alzheimer's New Jersey. Your donation is indeed safe, secure, and tax deductible. But even better, folks, come donate in person, as I'm sure we'll have warmer days and it'll be great temperatures on Friday night, April the 17th, at the world-famous Son Cubano, located once again on the waterfront at 40-4 Riverwalk Place. There'll be valet parking, folks, and trust me, great food, great music, great people, and most importantly, partying for a great cause. So I'll see you on Friday night, April the 17th, where memories matter to benefit Alzheimer's New Jersey. And that's our show for this week. Once again, folks, to check out all the great content brought to you by the leader in independent media here in Hudson County, the Hudson Media Group, please visit their pages on Facebook. Make sure you follow them on Instagram and X, and also subscribe to their content on YouTube. You can check out great content such as Talking Politics with Fernando Uribe and all the great shows that the Hudson Media Group brings you every single week. It's a privilege to be working here, and again, I'm so grateful to the president and the CEO of the Hudson Media Group, Patrick O'Melia, for his belief in my brand of fearless independent journalism. And certainly, folks, the production staff here is amazing, and I'm grateful because they make my job look very easy every single week. Always remember, folks, if it's unbiased, unfiltered, and unafraid, it is indeed Talking Politics right here with the Hudson Media Group. And I am the generational talent in Garden State Media, and you're a leader for trustworthy opinion journalism. That's right, folks. It's me, Fernando Uribe. Have a great weekend. We'll see you in the month of March, folks. Again, hopefully warmer days are coming. And stay patient, stay safe out there, stay warm. And most importantly, thank you for supporting the Hudson Media Group. Once again, the leader in independent media here in Hudson County. We'll see you next week, folks. As always, please party responsibly. And we'll see you next time here with the Hudson Media Group.